Hey, friends, recording a podcast style conversation with my friend Northern Ranger. This is his YouTube channel. Link will be in the description. Another great Destiny content creator that fills me with videos to watch whenever I'm doing dishes in the morning or going about my day. Great to listen to. All the
I
above.
try my best.
But today's topic is seasonal events. You can see we're loading into the Bonfire Bash, Solstice of Heroes. We had originally planned this for, what was it, the Christmas seasonal event way back when, but life got a little busy, we didn't get it done, and many things have happened within Bungie since then that have sort of changed the trajectory of the game, therefore the trajectory of this video.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think we had originally been planning on doing this. It was like right before Into the Light, and then that dropped, and then Final Shape dropped, and everything just got really hectic.
The background gameplay is not going to be important whatsoever. We're essentially doing a checkpoint farm to get silver leaves off my free-to-play character. Then I grab bounties from the forge and use the orb creation suit that I'm using right now. Again, background gameplay is not going to be important. If you want to do the dishes, put in some headphones. Feel free. It's going to be great. Anyway, this was written before the second round of layoffs at Bungie. And Bungie specifically said, and this is the first time that they've really said this in the last decade from what I remember, but they're focusing less on regular expansions and more importantly, on the core modes of the game. So the question is, how and where do seasonals fit into this shift? Are seasonals supposed to be like a staple of live service games and MMOs? It's a question for the viewer, question I'm going to kind of explore in this conversation. So, I guess the core question is, why do seasonal events even exist?
Yeah, and are they important?
What would you add to that? Why do you think they exist?
Well, I mean, looking at this from the perspective of other games, other MMOs and whatnot, where seasonal holiday events are just better. Typically, I would say it's a way to kind of break up the monotony from your typical daily game grind. Maybe a way to make some new friends, get some potentially exclusive gear, that sort of thing. At least that's how it's usually been in the other MMOs I've played.
Yeah, for these live service games, I really think they make these seasonal events just to try to incentivize some players returning. Because not everybody plays every day like I do.
Yeah, returning and to keep, the more hardcore bases interested and engaged. Which I think is especially important in a game like Destiny, where, we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of the franchise. It's been around for a minute.
It has been around for a minute, and so has this activity, which is why I don't even look at the screen when I play it. What's this been?
Yeah.
2 years, 3 years of this exact activity, except they made the throwing the ball mechanic less magnetic, so you can't airstrike it.
Yeah, it has literally, like, this is an activity where it really is like you can pretty well just play it with your eyes closed.
I am. I am not looking at
Yeah.
my main screen when I play this. I don't even feel like getting the igniters to 30 early is even worth it, because then I have to pay attention just a little bit.
Yeah.
That's how boring the activity is to me. But despite that, right? Solstice has made some improvements compared to every other seasonal event that has been incredible. And it doesn't sound like much, but it finally hit the bare minimum of allowing me to play PvP and make progress towards this loot.
Yeah, and also, quite frankly, having loot that feels like it's kind of worth something.
Yeah, the loot is best in slots,
good.
you would say?
For at least the shotgun and the 120, yeah.
I mean, since it's recent, like, I doubt players are going to watch this video 6 months from now, so let's just talk about Solstice a little bit and that loot. I think the shotgun is tied for Matador as the best legendary shotguns for pellets in the energy slot.
I think it could potentially be even a little better, because these are enhanceable.
They are enhanceable. It's also solar. Maybe that fits with the build. I know Arc's more important to my builds because of Amplified, but I also play Dawnblade, right? Get the harmonic mods. They cost a little less. So
I was going to say, too, like, for me, you know, I'm typically, obviously, I'm not right now for obvious reasons, but I'm typically a gunslinger main, and so having those harmonic mods for solar is really nice.
Then the hand cannon. My brain immediately goes to this gun can create diamond lances in 6s, and it's
Yep.
probably a 3 staple because it's a 120 hand cannon. That's the meta. It
With
has
precision
LE
instrument.
cap or snapshot for the handling, and it has precision instrument to just be overall a better gun. Like, there's really no downside to precision instrument.
And for 6s, you have kill clip, mask of Bacchus, 2 taps.
Yes, yes, yes. The bow, this one's new, and I believe the drop is weighted. That one I could see
Yeah.
some interesting stuff from like the Cardinal Dive boys, as far as like floating,
Oh,
hip fire, team wipes, you know.
Yeah. And it has, I would say, some really good PvE stuff on it.
Yeah,
Those are
yeah.
great
The bow is
PvE.
one I'm looking to take advantage of having double perks to save bolt space. And yes, for
Yes.
viewers hearing that for the first time, you can get double perks, and you don't even have to do Bonfire Bash after a certain point to get them. You can just play PvP.
Yep, which is awesome. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
from the actual Bonfire Bash end of activity reward, they don't have double drops, so there's not really an incentive to do these, but it's just small brain power enough that we can do this and focus on our podcast at the same time.
Exactly, because I would not be able to do this while playing PvP.
Right. So what else here? I'm gonna just reference the notes as I go along. There is bounty re-rolling that I will show on the screen right now, and that's very nice for a player trying to curate their play session. Like, what if you just don't feel like using Strand at all? Then you don't have to. You can spend your time to re-roll.
And I do appreciate that a lot of these like subclass bounties, it's like you can use this or you can use this. Or you don't have to use either. Progress might be a little bit slower, but I haven't really noticed that
And
much.
the keyword extra progress on Guardians.
Yeah, PvP, there we go. Or Gambit, if you want to do that, if you want to go that route.
So it sounds like I'm hyping this thing up, but I'm really not. It's like
Yeah.
it's because everything else has felt so short that just having the bare minimum is
Feels good.
worth raving about. So don't
Like,
be
oh my
fooled.
God. It,
Um,
you know, it's better than it was.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a seasonal event, right? It's temporary. So one thing that comes to
Exactly.
mind is fear of missing out, FOMO. And then on top of that, these aren't craftable. There's not determinism. It's not like, what is it, Onslaught, where you can focus a weapon and it drops most of the time. This doesn't have that. It's just all random. And then let me go to D2 Foundry real quick and just look up these new guns. Trait. I think I remember it's something new. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Was it 7 last time?
I think so, yeah.
I'm checking now. I think it was 6. So now there's one more perk slot, but we can get the double perk. Less quantity, but we can get the double perk.
Yes.
So looking at that just real quick, I would say that it's super unlikely that you get your 5 out of 5. And I would even say it's super unlikely that you get your 4 out of 5. In what is this, a 3-week span?
Yeah. Yeah. Even with the double perks, I think your chances are probably pretty slim.
And we already said that these have potential to be best in slots for generic playstyles, but also for specific playstyles. So
Oh yeah, there's
the
a lot of
incentive to get them is
people that
there, right? And it's a limited time. So players that are really in tune with PvP, I'd imagine that they feel some FOMO right now to participate
Oh,
and at least get the hand cannon, because the shotgun, they can just farm the ogre.
Yeah.
The hand cannon doesn't really have a replacement for those specific builds.
The shotgun is actually a bigger deal for me because slick draw opening shot seems kind of interesting on a precision frame.
Right. I agree. That also seems very good. So again, referencing the notes here, a problem with some of these seasonal events is that if a player missed out on that something new hand cannon, there's not an alternative for their playstyle or build 6 months from now.
Exactly.
Unless Bungie,
Like,
of course, drops something similar to something new.
Yeah.
And
Like,
that's
the
just
closest
unlikely.
I
It,
think
it hasn't
yeah.
happened that much.
No. And I feel like the closest you're going to get would be maybe Cremills, and something new is just better.
So yeah, the FOMO hits
Straight
me
up.
extremely hard as a content creator. It's like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't run Diamond Lances now, or back in the day, but now that they are accessible on Prism,
Oh
I
yeah.
run Diamond Lance all the time, so yeah, something new is even more of a thing I want.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, headstone and whatnot. There's a lot you can do with these guns, and even though they're better than they were, the FOMOs, it still hurts
Yeah,
because you know you're not going to get everything that you want.
helm for Postmaster, and then we load up another one of these.
Yes.
So anyway, I say all this to build the picture of it's a limited time event with very sought after loot. It's very difficult to have the dice roll your way, and the players just gonna feel burned if they find a favorite playstyle, but these aren't obtainable then. I know I felt burned in the past for that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would imagine pretty much everyone can relate to this, but I mean, FOMO is such a really pretty awful part of this game. You know, how many times have you had it be where, you know, you look back and you think, "Oh God, I should have gone for that," you know?
Agreed. So something I put on the notes here is from Onslaught, shinies.
Yes.
Shinies have been one of my favorite additions to the game because it's a compromise to the type of player that wants the looter shooter aspects of the game, and a compromise with, I'm going to be real, my kind of player that just wants to load up Crucible and not play at a disadvantage or just have variety for sake of variety.
Yep.
And if you want to invest in variety in this game, it costs legitimately a lot of glimmer and time.
Yeah.
And having it be
Yeah.
FOMO'd and time limited from a seasonal event is even worse for variety's sake.
Yeah, because you never know what you're going to get the next year.
Yeah, so shinies have been that compromise. And if you don't remember what shinies were, it was just a different weapon skin and they had double perks.
Yep.
So if they could do those temporarily for the seasonal event, but all year round have like Zur or Ava Levante available somewhere in the tower, it doesn't have to be every day, but you know, just occasionally give an opportunity to get a random roll or two of the seasonal weapon all year round, players would feel less burned. And you could argue maybe it would drop the player investment numbers on these activities, but like, come on, dude. They're not great activities.
Yeah,
You don't
I
need to
mean,
arbitrarily boost those up.
the reality is that if people aren't playing the activities, that says more about the activity than anything else.
Yeah, I think that brings us to bad activity structure and, more importantly, leeching the health of other PvP playlists, because
Yeah,
if
I
people
mean, the
feel
playlist
like they're FOMO'd and have to get a PvP gun outside of PvP, well, guess where they are instead of PvP?
they are in Bonfire Bash.
And I have been matching a lot of sus individuals in PvP as a result, because it artificially deflates that population a little bit, and it's just not great.
Yeah, plus, I mean, connections get worse, queue times go up.
It's
It's
an
not,
L
not a
for
great.
everybody. And then, of course, we get match made into games where they're just more noobs than usual, bigger skill disparity, and that's not fun for them.
Yeah, yeah.
At the end of the day, I would say that the activity needs to be created in a way that if there were no rewards, players would still want to play it.
Exactly. It has to be something where it's fun enough that you don't think, oh, you know, when you load in, you're not like, oh God, here we go again. It's the thing of, yeah, I'm down to do this for a while.
Yeah, I'm like even loading into right now, I'm just like looking at my other monitor like, what do I want to watch on YouTube?
Yeah, literally.
Like not excited to play the activity, just excited to be done with it.
Yeah, every time I load in, I am genuinely like, man, I wish I was in control right now. You know, like it's or doing honestly just about anything else.
I mean, this is
Even
why
if
we
it-
did this podcast. We just wanted to have something else to focus on. No, not really,
Yeah.
but the devs are a little limited in making activities like this entertaining, because you got to understand that they have to make these accessible to all skill levels and most time investments. So as a
Exactly.
result, I would say that the activities are kind of hollow and simple. I'm pretty sure I can just leave my guardian out here AFKing in the middle of the arena for a minute and it might not die. It's kind of crazy.
Oh yeah, I have seen people unironically over the last day or so I've been playing this. I have seen some people be AFK for the majority of
And
Bonfire
you would think
Bash,
that
and
that would be a
fine.
detriment, but
Yeah.
I actually want that. I want them to AFK because in this activity, you're competing with your teammates. Like, I'm gonna follow Quibfan. Like, imagine if I followed him around and every time a group of ads spawn, I just wipe the whole wave and he gets no progress on any bounty, and that's the only reason
Yeah.
he loaded in here, right? So
And it happens.
Yeah, it happens
It
all the time.
happens.
Yeah, there's 3 players, but only 2 active spawn points at a time in this event, so it just doesn't add up.
Yeah, like when I've been trying to do some of these bounties, I have to get really aggressive because if I don't, I'm not going to get them done,
This
or I'm
isn't
going to
the
be stuck on
only.
the same bounty for like 30 minutes.
Yes, yes. This isn't the only seasonal event where you sort of have to compete with your teammates, and it's not a fun competition either.
Yeah,
You're just like,
I mean,
please, man, I want
with
to watch my YouTube video and get done with this. Like,
yeah
don't make me look at the screen.
the bounties for the haunted lost sectors. It's the
Oh,
same
yeah.
thing. It's the same thing.
I think it goes beyond seasonals, too. It's just not a good thing Bungie has ever kept up with in this game. They always make that same mistake.
Yeah, just literally, there isn't enough stuff on the screen for me to kill. There just isn't.
And that almost leads
Especially
to a feeling of dread for these seasonal events for me.
Yeah,
Mostly because they're intrusive.
they are. And then you couple that with the punishing RNG, and it's like, man, how long am I going to be stuck in this?
And then the insult to injury out of all that is you're hit with all these banners as you load up the game, like, oh, new Eververse, new, like, come on, man.
Like, I don't care about any of
Make
this.
the
man.
event good, and maybe I'll buy some Eververse out of the
Yeah.
good graces.
It's like, tell you what, you make an event that I want to play, and I will give Tess some of my money.
I mean, not really, though,
Yeah.
for me. Like, if they
Like-
make good cosmetics, I'll buy it. If I like the state of the game, because I really do value voting with my wallet.
Yeah.
But a lot of the cosmetics for these, I didn't really like too much. It's not like some of the anime MMOs I play where the cosmetics are allowed to go really crazy and break the mold. And I know they say that with Destiny, but they really don't. A case in point is how long did it take for us to get a wizard hat?
Yeah. I mean, ironically, the first ornament that I've spent money on in probably a few years was that new Ace ornament. Because one, it looks sick, and admittedly, I always tell people Ace is always talking to me like the Green Goblin suit, but a lot of the cosmetics they do tend to be, I think, pretty lackluster.
That's where I'm at too. So overall with this activity and all these other seasonals is they're not really created to be permanent. And I would almost say that that's the biggest flaw of the live service game genre, but especially Destiny 2.
Yeah.
They put all
And
this effort
ironically
into
enough-
something that's only here for like a week, and then they don't iterate on it. I would argue that this is the worst version because you can't airstrike the ball anymore.
I was going to say there's a degree of irony in that too, given that this feels like a temporary activity, but we've had it for what, like 3 or 4 years now?
Well, it's temporary in the sense that it's only around for 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
or however long it is.
And when it's a temporary activity that's only around for a few weeks and you don't want to play it, it's bad.
Oh yeah.
It's
So
bad.
let me give us a refresher here on all of the seasonals in Destiny 2 history. And some of them aren't listed as seasonals, but they might as well be. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to put Pantheon in the crafting there, even though neither were.
Yeah.
So we have Guardian Games, Solstice of Heroes, Festival of the Lost, The Dawning, Crimson Doubles, Revelry, SRL from Destiny 1, Crafting, and Pantheon.
Yes.
Some of those game modes had PvP. I'll just list all the PvP ones. We had Guardian Games, which had Class Warfare with Mayhem PvP again. Might as well be Mayhem.
Genuinely.
Then we had Crimson Doubles, which was Mayhem PvP if you were near your partner. Revelry, which was Mayhem PvP with streaks. SRL was Sparrow Racing, so that just goes down as the GOAT. I really wish they would bring that back just because it was so different than everything else.
Yeah, it was interesting, if nothing else. It was interesting.
And yeah, those are all the PvP things, and they sort of fit that same theme of, I call it Mayhem, but it really plays like a Mayhem.
It does. I mean, think about, like, Supremacy in Guardian games, like, hey, I'm on a 10 streak, I pick up, like, 2 crests, oh, I have my Blade Barrage for the 3rd time in a row.
The very
know.
first match I played of that, I had Shadebinder in the first 40 seconds, and then got another Shadebinder a minute later from
Yeah,
using the
insane.
freezes from the super to farm the next streak. As soon as, that was the first game, by the way. As soon as I hit that first game, I said, "Yep, this isn't going to be playable."
Yep. And I get that some people enjoy that, but at the same time, if you just want to play the game normally, it's kind of a deal killer. It doesn't really incentivize me to want to play it if I know I'm going to be fighting supers every few seconds.
I put this in the notes because it made me wonder if the common theme of PvP in these events is mayhem. Then that makes me wonder what their data suggests players really like playing.
Yeah.
And depending on that answer, it's probably not going to scale well for all of the skill brackets, especially the higher skill brackets.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So in the past, when I was more naive about a content creator, I probably would have said something like, "Oh, they need to make a PvP mode. That's what would make the seasonal so good. They have to put a PvP mode." But now with more experience on how this game actually lands with the community, I kind of like what we have now, where it's just I get to play normal PvP and do Solstice bounties to get
Yeah,
double
I can
perk gear.
still...
Like that's way better than having a mode that's not playable.
Exactly. Exactly. Which, man, I mean, that's... It really is so true, because, like, Guardian games, like, I kind of dread it now, because it's like, I know PvP, everyone's going to be in Supremacy.
Oh,
I don't really
okay.
wanna
This is
play
where I get to go on a rant. Guardian Games was perhaps one of the most excited I was ever about PvP. Because it seemed like a fun excuse to do something I normally don't do, which is get 6 friends together with a theme.
Yep.
And that was possible in the past in Destiny for me, but I'm going to say as not just the Destiny player base evolved, but like the FPS gaming sphere evolved, 6v6 PvP or just pool teams, it happens less. People just quit out. They don't want anything to do with it if there's even a little bit of skill disparity.
Yeah. Which is funny, because it's like, you queued with a 6-stack.
Yeah, I know,
Didn't
but if
expect
it's
it
not
this,
fun, it's
you
not
know?
fun. I'm not going to hold them hostage. I want them to want to play me, and Matchmaker doesn't do a good job of finding me players that want to play.
Yeah.
And that's my
Yeah.
complaint with that. That's part of the rant is I was so excited to build these. Oh, I got a heater. It really is though.
Dare I ask?
I'll put it on.
See this. Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, I'm happy walking away from the. I'm done with the event. Good luck. Load these up. I'll just sit in orbit. I'll load up another. For the audio-only viewers, it was a snapshot precision instrument, something new, with not throwing on the barrel mag masterwork. All right, loading up another. So anyway, what I wanted to get at is I was so excited to run thematic 6-man teams in Guardian games, and when I finally sat down to play them, and keep in mind, the week before, I made all these lists of gear and stuff for my friend group. I said, if you want to play this team comp, go grab this stuff, get it together. We're going to play like this. It's going to be so much fun. And they're not like the highest skilled players. It's just I thought it would be a goofy ass time with some friends, right?
Yeah. It's like
And
Mario Kart, you know?
exactly. It was party game mode, so I was treating it like it. And loaded in, every team just backs out. Don't even get to play it.
Yeah. Like, immediately, too.
And I don't know if that's the same for everybody, every different skill bracket, every type of player. I don't know if that's the same for everybody, but from my experience, I think it was naive to ask Bungie for PvP modes if they don't scale.
Yeah. Yeah, it is true.
So, can you think of any good examples of seasonal events from other games that you've played?
Yeah. And everyone will have to forgive me here, because I'm having to go down a memory lane a little bit. First MMO I ever played was this goofy little kind of anime one called Mabinogi. If you're familiar with the travesty that is Nexon, you know the game. But this is the one that always sticks out for me is and I want to say it was originally introduced as just like, I don't remember if it was a holiday event or what, but originally I think it was supposed to be temporary. But it was a rafting event, and it seemed just very odd for the game. But it was, you would be on a raft, and you'd have to have, some people like driving the raft, and then other people defending it when enemies would try to jump on. And it was dumb, and it was stupid, and it was goofy, and it was so much goddamn fun. It was so much fun. And I don't know if it was ever meant to be permanent, but I know that it is still a part of the game, and it seems to be something that the remaining player base still really enjoys.
I want to circle back to that. It was goofy. It was fun. Oftentimes, when we give feedback to devs, I'm told that we should be like a patient at the doctor's office. Doc, this is the symptoms I'm feeling. Like when they hit that theme or tone right, make it goofy and fun. I think I like that better. That's fun.
Yeah, and you, especially like in a game like Destiny, where it's a game that is typically pretty dark, right? I would have a problem with that, but with these seasonal events, like it's okay to get a little whimsical, shall
That's
we
a
say?
great word to use for it.
It's okay to just give us something where it's just there because it's fun.
I would agree. And we'll circle back to that idea later because I know that'll pop up again. But as far as other games, I have experience with Phantasy Star Online too. A lot of players that I played with also played Mabinogi in that game
Yep.
too. Then I had RuneScape. And then I think everyone can collectively say that Fortnite has concerts, like real concerts. So
Oh yeah.
that's kind of a seasonal.
Like and this happens to me with pretty much. This is how battle royales go for me. I get addicted to them for like a few months, and then I never play them again. But Fortnite has some really fun events. Like everyone makes fun of Fortnite, but they know how to do their events.
I don't have that much experience with it, so this is all you.
Well, like there was one, I can't remember. My memory is terrible. I cannot remember exactly how many people can spawn in a match at once. I think it's like, let's say it's 100. There was one where for a while, instead of it just being, a bunch of teams of 3, it was like 2 teams of 50. And that was
Oh, okay. Let's hold that thought again because that type of remix is something that would be really nice for changing the theme or tone of the game.
Yeah.
Remember 12-man raids, that bug?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I did not get to participate in that.
The clown car raids?
That always sounded so much fun.
So I'm going to go with some specific examples from PSO2 that are different from Destiny. My complaints with Destiny, these are truly limited, whereas in PSO2, they have these like keys that you can access the holiday quest at any time of the year back in the day. It was super useful because if you had someone join the game brand new and they needed a piece of gear that came from a seasonal, you go, okay, I have a couple of quest keys. Let's go through them right now.
Yeah.
So I could access the 4th of July event from like 7 years ago. It's pretty sick.
Yeah. As opposed to, again, Destiny, where it's like, oh, you you didn't start the game, you started the game like 2 days too late. Well, that's just too bad. You gotta wait another year.
So you say whimsical? This was a Japanese anime-style game, action RPG. The setting for the seasonal event was Las Vegas. The theming was 4th of July. And some of the transmog was, of course, Stars and Stripes, but you had like a turkey drumstick? Something like that? Like, I'm telling you, super weird and whimsical.
Yeah, and again, it's like, this sort of stuff is okay. It's okay for stuff, even in games like Destiny where things tend to be a bit more serious. It's okay to have stuff in there that it's just there for fun.
Yeah, and so the limiteds in PSO are sometimes cooperative, sometimes competitive, and sometimes competitive cooperative. And all is healthy because they would give you like bonuses. The equivalent I could think of is Bright Dust in Destiny. You get Bright Dust for outperforming your lobby.
Yeah, and that's a great incentive.
I mean, that would immediately change how I approach this activity, for example. It immediately goes from something I don't look at the screen to like, I kind of want to optimize this.
Yeah, because you want the free stuff. It's incentives like that I think are awesome. It changes things up. It forces people to, maybe play a little bit differently. It's fun.
On the subject of whimsical, we're going to RuneScape now. A lot of tongue-in-cheek British humor. There was the most popular bug, and you could probably watch a side YouTube video for those who've never played RuneScape. It's worth watching it. Look up the Falador Massacre and try to find some like history videos related to it. So the construction skill dropped in RuneScape, and you were able to build houses for the first time. And in the houses, you could have a player versus player dungeon arena. And there was a bug where after they got kicked out of the house, if they were in that PvP arena, they got to keep regular PvP ability in non-PvP areas in the main game. And so someone went on a killing spree, taking people for real. Like, keep in mind that if people had these items in their account right now, They would be worth like college tuitions, like fucking crazy amount of rarity associated.
Yeah, like Counter-Strike skins sort of deal.
Yes, yes, yes. So anyway, leave it to the company to make a seasonal event based around the Falador Massacre, where they had a non-player character version of that player who went on the killing spree, just like attacking people. Of course, everything was safe. On the video that got popular on the internet, there was a song from Nightwish, Planet Hell. They made some like RuneScape soundtrack version of Planet Hell to this event. Like, they
And,
went
like,
crazy
that's
with it.
hilarious. That is so funny.
That's what Destiny is missing in these seasonal events for me. And I might be jumping the gun a little bit on the notes here, but Final Shape even had some of those tone shifts in there.
Yeah, like you were mentioning the mission with Cade and Crow.
In the screams, right? Like,
Yeah,
you would
was
say it felt more like
ridiculous.
Borderlands than Destiny for a little bit. I think
Yeah, it was ridiculous and it was fun.
I think seasonals are the perfect place for Bungie to flex their creative muscles like that and just be goofy for sake of it being funny.
Yeah. I mean, they've shown they can be funny when they want to. You know? And
This-
it's like stuff like that does end up being healthy for the game just because it kind of breaks up what can, you know, be monotonous at times.
Agreed. So now this brings us to what would a good activity look like in modern Destiny 2? And
Yeah.
I believe you brought up Pantheon if you want to go on that.
Yeah, Pantheon, if we're talking like temporary events, Pantheon I think is the best we've ever had. And to be honest, I would argue that it might be probably top 5 PvE experiences that we've ever had in the game. Pantheon was something of a masterclass, in my opinion. That was the most fun I've had with PvE in years. And I was actually really bummed that we lost it, and I find myself fairly regularly being like, man, I miss Pantheon.
I hear a lot of the speedrunner types are also disappointed that they lost it.
Yeah. I mean, that was something where, you know, on another thing that we've talked about is having a game be, you know, more social. That was something where, like, everyone I play with, we were all excited to log on for Pantheon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we were having a blast with it.
I think the key word with Pantheon is remix. They remixed things that we were used to and made them more interesting.
Exactly, and that for me, and I talked about this earlier. That has been one of my biggest complaints with Destiny PvE for years now, is that it is perfectly predictable. You know what is going to happen every time, and so even the, you know, relatively small changes that they made to the encounters inside of Pantheon, they made a difference. It felt fresh. It felt fun. It felt just different than what, you know, you're used to. And in some cases, it made things harder. Like, I would argue that Pantheon Nezarec was harder than Day 1 Nezarec.
Yeah, I could see that. So I put on the notes, if they're gonna do the remix thing, it could extend to like modes and player count too.
Yeah.
12-man
Yeah.
raid, 8-man gambit, 2 invaders. I don't know, I'm just spitballing on those.
Yeah. Or, you know, like, one of the things that you mentioned was, you know, let us have, you know, like, the high player count PvP mode inside of the EAZ. That would be fun.
Oh, yeah. Back when I was on the rant about Guardian games, I said,
Yeah.
like, what if? What if the Dawning had PvP? It'd be like snowballs in PvP. That'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
But
Or,
why
like,
not
one
take
thing that we
advantage
talked about
of the
was,
EAZ?
like, the Dawning. Have a snowboarding event.
Yes,
We have
yes.
skimmers now, you know?
So Solstice PvP. My game mode, if I had the keys to the kingdom, would have been zero gravity or high jump, whatever it is. A lot of players fill in the space. Snipers only, maybe mountaintop and sniper. And maximum AE. Just let them go crazy. And make it free for all. Give rewards for the top 3 that are scaled, rewards for everybody. I think that would be perfect.
Or if you really wanted to make it a little bit crazier, I don't know if you ever played like Instagib in some of the old boomer shooters, but basically in that mode, you would see it a lot in like Quake and like Doom, the old Doom games and that sort of thing. But everyone would spawn in with rail guns, which would one-shot you at any range. Let everyone spawn in with permanent golden gun still hunt. I would play that all day, and make it like 12-man rumble or something, I would be in there all the time.
For a seasonal event, something that's temporary, yeah, that fits for me. That's not something I would necessarily want around the entire time,
No,
but
yeah,
it
definitely
definitely
not
fits
year
the theme of a
round.
seasonal.
But yeah, like for something like Solstice or something, I would be in there all the time. That would be a blast.
So next up on the notes was higher difficulty scaling rewards. I believe Pantheon offered that too, right? The farther you went in, the more you were rewarded.
It did, yeah. I mean, Pantheon, especially those later weeks where things got harder, I mean, it showered you with loot. It
Yeah.
showered you with loot. Spoils, adept raid weapons, red borders, all that stuff.
Which
It was
now,
great.
compared to what we're doing now, there is no hard mode for this. And even if there was, I don't even know if it would be hard, but at least it would be less painful to grind because you'd be getting more out of your time.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to mention with how that worked in Pantheon was, like you and I have talked about, players who will play just for the sake of playing and players who need, some sort of extrinsic reward. And Pantheon had both. You could get people to play it just because they wanted to play it, and you could also get people to play it for the rewards.
Yeah, I wanted to play it less for the rewards and more for like, I have some strategies that I want to test as a team.
Oh yeah, no, I
And
was in
people
the
would be
same
down.
boat.
They're
I
like,
was
wait, that
this
sounds
sounds
kind of interesting. I
wild.
bet that cooks. And, sure enough, we'd have a team of 6 ready. Then
Yeah,
the
and, like,
challenges, I think we did all free-to-play Pantheon, which was way easier than we expected, because free-to-plays are juiced now.
yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, it was the same thing for me. Like, I wasn't sure about it at first, and then I did my first run, and I was like, this is fun. This is a blast.
So we're on the
Like,
subject of what would a good activity, a seasonal activity would look like in Destiny 2. One of the next bullet points is high enemy density. And
Yeah,
you could argue what we're doing right now is high enemy density. No, that's not what I mean by high
no,
enemy density.
no.
This is
It's
a drop in the
like what
bucket.
it's like what I said when we were talking about this before. Even if an activity is, so simple that you can turn your brain off like this, sometimes just having enough stuff to just kill can make up for a lot.
I'm talking, I want
Like,
those old gen consoles smoking. Like,
yeah, literally. Like, I mean, I talked about this before. Like, I think the best like co-op shooter experience I've had in years is probably Helldivers 2. And that for the most like the tasks in Helldivers are very simple. But at any given point you can be fighting, anywhere if I had to guesstimate here, I say anywhere from, 50 to 100 plus enemies at once. And it's a blast. And it makes it really intense and really fun.
yeah, just like there's a difference between high enemy density and high enemy density. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that there's
like
a difference between these like mayhem modifiers that they have for every seasonal event.
yeah. Yeah.
Because like if you think about where Prism has power crept the game, even what I'm using right now, my my orb printer loadout.
Yeah, I'm using the same
If
sort of
mayhem
thing.
modifier was active, I legit would not even know that it was active, because everything comes back so quick anyway.
Yeah, no, straight up, I'm doing the same thing. And this also solves that issue we were talking about earlier. The higher the enemy density is, the less you're having to worry about your teammates killing everything.
That too, yeah, it becomes less competitive. Agreed.
Mm.
But I wanted to bring that up because I think that there's a difference between what Bungie thinks is mayhem and what the player base found out the crafting was. Like, you put the mayhem modifier on, you're not gonna melt a boss like shotgun auto rifle.
Oh yeah, no, not even. I mean, I remember back during the crafting watching you like solo GMs with a shotgun LMG.
That was probably the most bang for your buck craft. The crafting was so much fun. Be a dev for a day, which I think they should lean into for these seasonal events, which is why I put it in the what would a good activity look like, because
Yeah,
that is the time to give us that type of power level, even for a short burst in an activity like this. If for 1 minute it gave me crafting auto rifle, I'd be looking
Yeah.
forward to that minute.
I mean, everyone in this game, from the devs to the players, they all talk about power fantasy, and a temporary annual event is the perfect place to really let us have that power fantasy. Let us just go, insane for a few weeks. It's not going to hurt the rest of the game, but it does make, things like this more entertaining when you can just go ham.
For the listening viewers, if you want some extra information on the crafting, I have made videos in the past that instead of making Frankenstein mayhem weapons, we just made weapons that shoot straight, and we played Rumble and Sixes and whatnot with them as a private match, and it was really fun. So it's a nice little historical snapshot of that time.
Yep.
So definitely check those videos out. I'm probably not going to remember to put those in the description, but easy to search.
Ironically enough, pretty much anyone who's watched my videos knows that I am not a Trials fan. I had fun with Trials that weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I honestly did, because it's like, yeah, I'm bouncing, shotgun blasts around a corner with the Ahmed. It's great.
My buddies, Cool Guy and Jingleheimer, they had, like, standard crafts, then they had evil crafts, and then they had diabolical crafts. And so, depending on what the enemy team swapped to, they just pulled out, like, the nuclear option. They're like, oh, okay, we want to go there. One shot of a grenade launcher and, like, 50 grenades bounce around the hall, blow up in Gallahorn bullets, and they're like, we'll put away this shotgun, Emmett. We're sorry.
The Mulligan breach loading grenade launchers. Oh my god.
The sticky nades too, mate. It went crazy. There were some complicated crafts too, where you had to go through so many menus, and I'm surprised that anybody even did it. Like, they must have had so many stacks in Japan.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Japan 4K.
You can go back to that video. You can look up Japan in 4K, and you see like all the Destiny comments on it.
Oh yeah, I remember I could not get it to work, and then you put out that video. I was just like, oh, thank God.
I'm surprised, like, on the record, Bungie didn't ban for that.
Honestly though,
they've banned for worse or for less now.
Yeah, genuinely.
Even given the warnings out for less, so I'm very, very surprised. But I guess it was in such mass amounts that they really didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean,
but like, I'd take my punishment. That was
basically
fun.
Like, yeah, screw it, go wild. We'll fix this when we fix it, Which wasn't great at the time as someone who spends most of their time in Sixes, but like, yeah, like if I wish I'd thought to just spend that entire week soloing GMs. Honestly, didn't even occur to me at the time, but I wish I
had. Even though I did solo the GMs, I just wish I was more creative and thought of more fun weapons to craft.
Yeah.
Because it really was a limited time event that we're probably not getting back. But again, that is something Bungie needs to tap into for these seasonals.
Yeah, it seems, I would say it seems like I think most people really liked it. As long as it doesn't touch Sixes, like, yeah. Or
that's true, like, yeah. Just give us one place of normality in this game.
Yeah, then, if it's like a rotator mode or something, hell yeah. Rotator mode, we all load in with, shotgun Rufus's Furies or something. I'd mess around in that. Agreed.
And it doesn't have to be PvP. It doesn't even have to be like traditional PvE. It could be a card game.
Yeah.
Back when they announced the Puka Garden in Lightfall, I was excited because I was like, oh, that looks cool. It could be a Chow Garden. It wasn't. But seasonal event could be. Could be Sparrow Racing. I think we already talked about tone shifts, right? The theme tone shifts, like how it kind of goes Borderlands mode every now and then.
We touched on it, yeah, specifically with that Cade 6 mission, Cade 6 and Crow.
Okay, some more examples I have on the list are the Dawning with the cute cookies and the Halloween with the funny mask. Like, that is another time that I think they appropriately shift the tone and it's funny. And it lands.
Yeah,
I think the Telesto joke maybe didn't land the way that they wanted to, but I appreciate the effort.
Yeah, and I think the main issue with that was the way it was kind of done. I think a lot of people were expecting some significant development to like what's going on in the season at the time. And
I just think it was an overblown joke is really what it is. If people were just fatigued with that one.
Yeah, I mean, the Telesto jokes, they've been around for a minute. They've been around for a while. It's like, yeah, we all know Telesto breaks the game every once in a while. We understand.
It's been funny, though, how it's been so consistent.
It has. It's always Telesto, that is really funny.
Okay, final section of what would make a good seasonal activity is I put seasonals need to be an opportunity to onboard new players, like, from scratch. Like, they've never even heard of Destiny 2. They're just able to plug and play, participate in the activity, and most importantly, have fun. Don't load them up in here with white weapons. They're not going to be enjoying that.
Yep, exactly. Speaking of heaters, off topic for a second, I actually got a decent Compass Rose. Can't believe it.
Oh, let's see.
I just equipped it.
Oh, nice, 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 nice. The masterwork was the only L, but stab, I mean, it's
Yeah.
less flinch, so
Yeah, which does affect shotguns more than people think. But
for sure.
yeah. Um, but continue on.
I think that's pretty much it, right? Is talking about everything with the back and forth to really just give Bungie a prototype of what would be a seasonal activity that I would want to play.
Yeah, that's the thing is, and I've talked about this before. I want to play the holiday stuff, but currently I do not want to play them.
Right.
I'm here to get my guns, and then the instant I get the rolls I want, I'm out. I leave.
Which is what like created this podcast style conversation in the first place is
Yeah,
how many years
yeah.
of this in a row?
Oh my god. I honestly, I would say minus a couple of high points here and then, pretty much for the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Genuinely, which is a decade. That's a long time of having
And
bad
so now we're
holiday.
gonna start talking about franchise fatigue and again the layoffs and public perception of the game.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's very logical to think that if Destiny doesn't have a 3 or a completely different title next to it, it doesn't matter if they make these significant improvements. They're not going to have that explosive growth that they probably deserve for making those changes. And
yeah,
that's a little sad.
yeah. So I mean, I think, like the spinoff they talked about, definitely not my thing. Um, but it might have helped the game a little bit if it hadn't been canceled. Obviously, I know why they did, limited resources and whatnot. But um, if for no other reason than maybe people play something like that and they think, man, I wonder what like the mainstream game is like. I think at this point, pretty much anything that draws new players in is good.
I'll just do my job as a content creator, keep on keeping on because, in a way, as the game gets less popular, other content creators don't want to cover it. So I'm like, I'm still here, I'm still making videos, and other people appreciate it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I put out a video on this, and part of it is too for me is um, in the event that anyone who doesn't play Destiny or hasn't played Destiny sees this, despite the memes you've seen over the years, it's really not a bad game. I still have fun with it. I'm still having a good time with it.
I still think it's a
Um,
great game,
yeah,
but the problem with it is they don't give enough focus to the core modes. And I think what we're kind
exactly,
of getting at in today's
exactly.
conversation is for a live service game, for an MMO, seasonals are part of its core.
Yeah,
There's
genuinely.
something to look forward to in good games.
And I ironically enough, when they at first upon hearing these changes they were making, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know about that. But if they do focus on just the core activities, that could end up being one of the better things to happen to the game. Because really all of the core activities, PvP,
He's done it.
Gambit, God, the Vanguard playlist, um, it's struggling. It is struggling, right? Like I cannot remember the last time I sat down to just play the Vanguard playlist unless I was doing like a GM or something like that.
Oh yes, I would agree. And I'm not gonna have the right like tone for that because I just got like a heater shotgun. And just that sense of fucking relief that I don't have to be
Yeah,
in here anymore. Really,
yeah,
I don't. I can stop now. I can go back to
yeah,
PvP.
yeah. No, literally, I'm kind of like, part of me's kind of like I could do better.
This
There's always that question where it's like I can get better, but then there's also a part of me like, but is it worth
no, this goes back to what we were talking about really early in this conversation, that FOMO. That
Yeah,
sense of relief I have of just, oh my god, I can just focus on things I want to do now. It
yeah,
shouldn't be there.
yeah. And it also sucks because it takes away from what should be a feeling of excitement.
Yes.
Instead of being excited that hey, I just got this badass
Yeah, I
gun.
get
I'm
to
like,
use this
thank
cool gun.
God I
It's,
don't
oh,
have
they
to
got
play
it.
this shit anymore.
Yes. I wanted to add that last part. It's going off script a little bit with like the trajectory of Destiny 2, but I think some of y'all don't try to follow the trend, follow the live stream crowd or whatever. If they improve the core modes and the seasonals and whatnot, the game's gonna keep getting better, and I already would say it's good. So
Yeah, yeah. Like it's one of these things where I tell people, yeah, um, I get frustrated with Destiny, especially as a PvP player. But I keep coming back to it because, as many of us have said, no one does this game like Destiny does. You know, there really is nothing out there quite like it. It is a truly unique experience, and I hope one of the changes they talked about is trying to make it more accessible for newer players. And I hope that that happens because I would love to be able to get more people into this game. Because once you really start getting into it, there really is nothing out there quite like it.
I agree. If I had to pick like the number one thing that they have to kill for public perception and stigma of this game is improve the onboarding process to where players
Yeah.
aren't afraid or even think or jump to the conclusion of, the game's 10 years old, they're too far ahead, it would take me too long to catch up, I wouldn't understand any of it. Like, get all those thoughts out of their head.
Yeah, yeah. It comes back to that thing I've said before, where someone wants to get into the game, I should not have to write a college essay on what they need to get into it. There needs to be just a smoother onboarding process so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. Almost like sensory overload just trying to get into it.
Right. Since it's similar related topic, and again we're going off script, is in the Paul Tassi articles, etc., there was talk of them saying instead of a Destiny 3 that they wanted to focus on like spin-offs and separate games. And a lot of the community reacted to that badly, as you would expect, but I kind of look at it from the angle of when they try to make activities like this that appeal to everyone, they also kind of appeal to no one, right? Because they don't have that
Yeah.
identity or depth or difficulty or whatever
And
is
I've seen
conflicting.
people talk about that a lot, and ironically enough, that came from a quote from one of the Helldiver devs. I think it was when people were, saying, oh, this, it only appeals to a certain crowd, and he just came out and said, look, a game for everyone is a game for no one.
Yeah, so I see some truth in that with how the public treats Destiny, because some curated spin-offs for a specific audience probably would have banged. Like, they would have been great. I
yeah.
listed some options in like a Twitter reply of a pure competitive PvP game to where the PvE in the game doesn't have to suffer over good changes.
Yeah.
MOBA
exactly.
Gambit, action RPG PvE. You could think like Diablo style, and yes, the FPS is what makes this cool, but also you've never seen Bungie be creative with how they would tackle that genre in Destiny's universe. Who knows? It could be better than the other games.
Or, the one that I always think of, and I've talked to you about this, but one of the most interesting, or I should say, one of the most harrowing games I've ever played, even more so than like most horror games, is the game Ready or Not, which is this highly realistic like SWAT simulator sort of deal.
Okay, got
And
it.
genuinely, it is the most probably the second most stressful game experience I've had. The first was still Tarkov, but it's harrowing. And then another company, can't remember what it was a smaller indie dev, had the really brilliant idea of mixing that, because the way the game plays, the weapon handling and all that, is very similar to Ready or Not, but they put it in the SCP universe. So you have this hybrid essentially of a kind of simulator style shooter with a horror game. And I thought, I genuinely like Destiny would be a perfect fit for that, because when you look at like Hive from the perspective of a Guardian, they're cannon fodder. But if you're just a normal dude and you encounter a Hive ogre,
Oh, that's a raid boss.
that's the scariest moment of your life.
Yeah, I agree. A horror FPS from that perspective would be incredible in the Destiny universe. And so,
Yeah.
like, any of those ideas being possible, that's what makes me excited when I hear news like that. Like, I don't read that as bad news. Like, yes, I would
Yeah.
obviously want a Destiny 3. I would have told him that 5 years ago. But spin-offs are cool, too.
Yeah, and they can,
It's like
Spin-offs
getting an
are
onion
fun.
ring in your fries. Like, I'm not going to say no, but...
Yeah, exactly. And if nothing else, it helps bring some attention to this game too, because eventually people, probably there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to get curious and be like, I wonder what the game that started all this is like.
Agreed. As far as Destiny 3 goes, if that was like on the hypothetical, I would have like a list of demands for that game to be an improvement over Destiny 2. I'd be like, those melee whiffs gotta go.
Yeah, that's got to stop. That's gotta stop.
Like, it's not Destiny 3 to me unless it changes those.
Yeah, yeah, no, straight up. Um, or hey, like I'm a PvP main. I get that a lot of the PvE guys really love their RNG. I don't. Can we have a separate PvP like screen or something, kind of like Call of Duty does with multiplayer versus the campaign,
Yeah,
where I can just pick what I want?
that again goes back to like that naive content creator and experience over the years. Like back in the day, I
Yeah,
would have said, "Oh no, that's Destiny's unique selling point is they have the PvE and PvP kind of like interconnected." Nowadays, I'm like, no, I just want to log in and play.
yeah. No, I'm in the same boat. I'm just like, yeah, like I'll get excited when something drops for me, but I would much rather be able to just play the game.
We've already said it. Like, what makes Destiny unique is the gunplay.
Yeah,
They've made
yeah,
it feel good to
really.
play patrol activities when you first
Like
start.
I've talked about this before. It is genuinely hard for me to play other shooters now because I get in there and I'm like, man, these guns feel awful. Like Destiny has spoiled me because the gunplay is so good.
And at the end of the day, I think that's what they tap into is their strengths.
Yep.
And then they're offering us the live service, so at the very least, they need to hit the friend game with these. Make it
Yeah.
social.
Yeah. That is the other thing that we didn't touch on as much, but this is a big part of what makes an MMO good is how social it is. And like Mabinogi, this was in the notes, was and granted it has been year when I was really big into Mabinogi, I was like 14 or 15. I'm 30 years old now, but I made friends playing that game, you know quite a few of them, and that doesn't happen very often in Destiny. Like
Yeah,
there's
Destiny
really
doesn't
only
have
been
the infrastructure to be social like that. I mean, yeah, we
yeah
have local chat now, but where
there's
do I
really
even
only
use that?
been yeah, there's really only been a couple of instances where I have made friends inside of the game from just playing the game, right? Um, Whereas in other MMOs or I mean even other shooters, I mean back in the OG Call of Duty days, right? Black Ops 2, COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, I made friends playing those, way more frequently than I have from just playing Destiny, you know?
I think the fishing minigame would have been a good candidate for that,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have a bunch of people there, you know.
but it was too bare
Um,
bones.
yeah, it was. I mean, it was sit there until you get a prompt, which was kind
Yeah,
of disappointing.
the worst version it could have been,
Yeah, it really
which
was.
means
Like
like
it was,
you
it
can't even
was.
really type doing that either,
Yeah, it
Mr.
was kind
Fish.
of charming at the start, and then it became kind of a necessity because it's like, yeah, if you want to,
No, in
5 out of 5
RuneScape,
spare,
you go to the
that's
docks, you
but
hit the sparkling water, and then you just socialize.
yeah, 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 yeah. That has been ironically enough, that's kind of one of the issues with Destiny being more accessible too, because especially in the current state of the game, you almost need something like someone to kind of like mentor you
You
to get
do.
into the game, and that's really hard to do when you have a game that really doesn't incentivize being social. And the less than stellar reputation LFG has gotten over the years probably doesn't help either, but at least give people some way to socialize inside of the actual game,
I
and that
think
that
that's a
doesn't
good
really exist in
closing
Destiny
point.
currently. Yeah,
Is all those things we said of what makes a good activity, the examples, and then let's finally make the game social.
yeah, yeah. Give people the opportunity to make friends in a game that is highly reliant on having friends to really get into the meat of this game.
Okay, I'm gonna once again repeat the shoutouts. This is Northern Ranger, makes good
Hello.
PvP content. On screen now you see, in the description you see, subscribe. And I'm not even gonna add my own, like that's perfect. Subscribe.
Yeah, my fiance made that picture.
That's great. Kudos.
Yes.
Okay, lovely viewers, thanks again for the channel support. Thanks for listening. I hope you got your dishes done or whatever you were doing. And if you use this to procrastinate your homework, you know what to do.
Yep.
Get
Yep.
it done.
Cram time.